Melanated family, back for another week. The regular scheduled program. You know what I mean? Thursday, 7 p.m. Thank you everybody for joining to another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. This is your brother Harrison. I got my longtime guest and co-host on the Thursday show, my sister
Yay.
Sonia Williams Lewis, here with me as well. So let's get it popping, man. So first thing I want to say, everybody, again, thank you. All the subscribers, all the likes, all the mentions, everything you guys do online. I appreciate that. If you're not subscribed to the show on YouTube, go on one of the digital platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all these different places you can find the Melanated Combo podcast if you don't like watching video or whatever the case may be. Also, go to my Instagram page because I have Melanated Combo podcast gear right now. I have shirts that have the logo on it. I have the Melanated State of Mind shirts. People have been buying them. My longtime supporters and my family and people that really rock with me have been buying it. Go to my Instagram page, get information about the shirts that I sell. Everybody is welcome to buy one. Also, Precision Design Studio. If you know somebody who needs shirts designed, like if you have a big project coming up, whether it be a party, a clothing line you have, a hobby, a funeral, all of these instances where we like to put information on shirts, holla at your boy. Precision Design Studio got great prices. I'll work with you on the logo you want, the image you want. We'll make it specific for what you're trying to do. Go to precisiondesign47@gmail.com. Send me an email. You can also hit me at 916-202-6684. I'm here in Sacramento, California. So let's get this thing popping, man. We're going to get it going.
Hey.
So me and my sister, Sonia Williams Lewis, brings you guys Thursdays. We come with news stories, topics surrounding Black society and who we are. And we dig into these topics, right? So on today's show, first thing I want to touch bases with you, Sonia, our brother Don Lemon, right? Don Lemon is a polarizing figure. He's a CNN anchor, has been there for 17 years. Definitely has said some things I don't agree with. He has said some things I do agree with too. But ultimately I've been unclear on what side Don is on completely. But nonetheless, the brother was fired from CNN on Monday. And, they released a statement stating how it was amicable, is how the statement sounds. But the brother said, I didn't know about it. I wasn't aware. I'm shocked. Right. So this brings up a lot of different feelings, Sonia, because at one angle, I'm like, okay, you put in 17 years at a job, brother. I know in your mind you're trying hard, doing the best you can. But in the other token, these people could have been using you. Like a lot of us have been saying, just for your the fact that you are a gay Black man, the fact that you're a Black man, you could have been used for these things. So Sonia, when you see something like that of a polarizing figure like Don Lemon, what do you think?
He is one of those unfortunate realities when we have to talk about, the token, the person who is hired to fill a void. And let's be clear on one thing. I don't, maybe this is just me. I don't consider Don Lemon like a news reporter. I don't consider him a journalist. I don't consider him a individual who is schooled in reporting the news. I consider him news entertainment, right? And I believe that they built a brand around him. I don't know that there was a Don Lemon beyond CNN before, there's no reputation that we are trying to protect before CNN. So I'm just in the vein of, okay, how did we tokenize this individual?
Yeah.
Right. And then in the tokenization of this individual, did you have a contingency plan? Because that really and truly is the reality for a lot of Black and brown folks, where you come from marginalized groups and you could be gone any day now. And accepting that as a reality means that you need to have a plan B, C, and D.
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, right? And
Yeah.
so those contingency plans, even if the contingency plan is I'm going to sue you, CNN, for letting me go for unjust cause, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I haven't heard, unfortunately, any legitimate reason for him being let go. My
Yeah.
speculation is, and maybe again, this is just me reading into the scenario of all things, but you also know that fucker Tara Carlson was also fired. And
Yep.
I think it was a way to appease white America. We're
Mhm.
taking Tucker Carlson off, which who, yeah, I said what I said, fucker Carson. Um, he was fired, so we're also going to fire this other person. And that's, sometimes how the cookie crumbles. And so I hope that Don Lemon has good attorneys that are on deck, and I
Mhm.
hope that I know that he has, because like you said, he's a polarizing individual. He has a brand that's out there, he has a following, so I know that his bounce back game should be good if he got
I
the
think
right
it will
people in
be.
his corner, right? You
Mhm.
pay the right people to do the
Yeah.
right things, management wise, advertisement wise, marketing. So I feel like his bounce back game, I feel like he can be an insider, like to what was
Hopefully, you know what I
really
mean? Because he
spill
what
the
he did,
tea.
like I said, it was so much about him, and I disagreed with the brother a lot, right?
Yeah,
But I think sometimes we got to realize, just like pro athletes, when you put in so much time and energy with said corporation, you're making them a lot of money, and they fire you and get rid of your ass without you not knowing. One
right,
of the main reasons why I want to talk about this is because his response. The brother responded by saying, "I was shocked. I had
right.
no idea. I thought based on our relationship, higher management or someone would have came and talked to me." And I think this is a lesson for a lot of black folks, kind of what me and you always talk about. So you got to put yourself in a position where
Right,
you can be unfireable if need be. You got to put
right.
yourself in a position like what Don Lemon does and his voice, and he can do that shit on his own. You see what I'm saying? But all too often we
Absolutely.
get in bed with these corporations because of all the perks and the benefits, and then at the drop of a hat,
Mhm.
they drop your ass. And he's 57. I didn't know Don Lemon was 57. I didn't think the brother was that old, just to
Wow.
be honest. You know
No
what I mean?
way.
Right? So I was like, damn,
Yeah,
brother, you and I know I've seen him argue for us. I've seen him in some arguments where I'm like, what the fuck you doing? That's just the
right,
reality of it. But at the end
right.
of the day, you could do that for yourself. Putting ourselves in positions where these companies can do whatever they want with us, it's kind of on us at the end of the day. And I know people need jobs and need, but you have to be aware of what can come. So, shout out to that brother. Hopefully he land on his feet, but
Yeah,
it's difficult when you dealing with these corporations, and I don't know what the structure be at times, as far as, are they making you attack us? Are they
right,
putting you in a situation where you argue, where they use you as the face of talking shit about black folks?
right.
All that's something he need to think about. So shout out to that brother.
Absolutely. And let me also just say this for the lay person who's not in a position where there's a lot of accolades and folks who know you, and there's notoriety behind your position. I'm always, as a person who does consulting with business organizations, when there are just few of us in those positions, one, you need to keep your receipts, right? Two, I'm really and truly saying we need to have contingency plans, because we are typically not the ones who are in those power positions that are
Mhm,
the decision maker positions. And
mhm.
so when we are creating these contingency plans, we are not only keeping the receipts, but we're making good connections outside of the relationship we have with the organization that we represent. So hopefully he can get on his Rolodex, on his cell, Rolodex, that's old, but get on your cell phone and make some phone calls and be like, look, y'all know that this wrong. Y'all know that I have a reputation of at least being personable on TV. At the very
Mhm.
least, I understand the game. And so, what can you do to put me in position? I mean, I can see him in a position of spilling the tea behind the scenes of news
That
reporting
type of thing.
for
Yeah.
like a independent studio like Tyler Perry. There are
Yeah.
so many outlets and avenues that he can go in. I just hope that he makes sure that he doesn't get stuck in the game that sometimes we do, because I was there when I was let go at Sac City Unified School District. I got stuck in fighting them because it was wrong. And
Mm,
sometimes the best part of the fight is moving on. Sometimes the
mm.
best part of the fight is shining in a way that they couldn't allow for us to shine. So I'm just
Ah.
saying, have your contingency plan in place and let that contingency plan be built on receipts and your reputation based on the relationships that you've built outside of the organization.
Yeah, success is the best revenge, huh?
Yes,
And the last thing on Don Lemon, like ultimately, I think my personal belief is all black folks should have a black first mentality. Like do what you
yes,
can to support our people, regardless of what your job title is. I know I mentioned there's some shit I heard him say that I wasn't quite agreeable with, but I ain't never talked to the brother. You know what I mean?
right,
So
right, right.
hopefully moving forward you realize you don't need corporations like that. You can do it yourself, and ultimately you need to be on the side of your people until we get out of the situation we in this country. I think all black people need to be in unison. Even if you're working for corporations, you need to be dealing with black people on the grassroots who can guide you and lead you, because in these situations when they don't want you no more, they fire you like that. That should
Yeah,
be a lesson to anybody in corporate America. At any moment, they can get rid of you. So, what worth are you bringing to yourself? Like, what do you do for yourself besides working at a corporation? What do you do to further whatever movement you're trying to push? And
right.
that's important. You know what I mean? So, shout out to that brother. But that's a telltale sign. And then Tucker Carlson, like you call him, he was fired too. And we don't know what's behind the scenes in those corporations, but this is eye opening nonetheless. You know what I mean? Now, what I want to show you real quick, Sonia, is this is an Instagram a video that I posted a few days ago, and a lot of conversations around this video because we have a young black girl. Not sure what state this is, but we have a young black girl who is getting into an argument with her teacher, and she eventually hits her teacher. Right, so I think this is a deep conversation about parenting, about the administrative side of things, because you've been a teacher yourself. So I'm gonna watch this, or we're gonna watch this video. I may comment, and stop it some of the way through, but we'll watch the video, then we'll do our commentary. You're not gonna talk to me like that, you dumbass bitch. You're not gonna talk to me like that. You're not gonna talk to me like that. You're not gonna talk to me like that. You dumbass playing my face right now.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my God.
Put your hands on me. Yeah, I swear to God, if you don't get your hands, put your hands on me. Get your hands on me. I'm just so screaming back. Okay, so me and you both have seen that video already, Sonia. So, and again, I'm not sure what city and state that's in, but the young girl is having a disagreement with her teacher, and she results to actually putting her hands on her teacher to the point where it gets physical. And to my understanding, this teacher could have been hurt.
Right.
Sonia, when I look at something like this, the first thing I'm thinking is our upbringings and our what we go through in our homes, who's in our homes with us. We're getting farther and farther away from how a lot of us was brought up. Where there may be some dysfunctions, but there's certain lines that you don't cross. Now, you was mentioning something about, like the trauma in the kid's life and everything they've been through in their life, and all this is true. But when I look at some of this, Sonia, I can't help but think some of our parents are being too lackadaisical. I see it in other environments. So, in my opinion, sometimes it seeps over into things like this, because I can understand having a disagreement with a teacher. I can understand protecting yourself if you're hit by a teacher or something.
Yeah.
But in this situation, I don't know what happened before the video or after, but I didn't see the teacher being the antagonist. So when you see students treating teachers this way, being that you've been a teacher yourself, what are some of the things that you think?
Oh, I mean, you already know that it hits home in a different kind of way. Being in the classroom, being a black teacher, being in spaces where not always is it just us, because sometimes, we're in spaces where it's everybody else, and it's a different kind of target that's on your back. But
Mhm.
particularly when I have been in places where I'm teaching, where there are little Black girls who look like me, my first goal in every one of those situations was to try to build relationships with those little girls who look like me,
Mm.
because I know the angst and the load that little Black girls carry on their shoulder. You know, we've mentioned several times in us having these conversations about the adultification of Black children.
Mhm.
And particularly when it comes to Black girls, we are seen as so super responsible and mature, and we know right from wrong. And therefore, when we argue with adults in an adult manner, we don't always get the same respect, right?
Mm.
I can remember being a substitute teacher out in a school in the San Juan district when I first moved to Sacramento. It was these three little Black girls, and they were determined to break me. Like, I heard one of them say, "She ain't gonna be here tomorrow." And I got in my car that afternoon and I was like, I'd be damned if I let these three little eighth graders. And I figured out which one was the ringleader, like, very quickly.
Yeah.
But my goal in going back the next day, because I could have been like, I ain't dealing with these little badass Black girls.
Mhm.
I don't have to, right? But I said, no, I'm going back. And not only am I going back, how can I divide and conquer? Because sometimes that has to be
Mm.
our strategy as well. But getting back to this story, because there were two of them, and I wasn't sure which one of the it was two Black girls recently in the last couple of
Oh,
weeks
got it.
that got into fights with teachers. This teacher, I believe, I think she's out on leave. The other
Mm.
teacher that I saw, it was another Black female teacher, Black girl, over a cell phone. That teacher was a substitute and she was let go. I
Mm.
think in both of those cases, unfortunately, that we have to have systems and mechanisms that are set up that protect teachers. Like, I don't think that there's enough care and concern that goes into that.
Mhm.
Like, do we have a buzzer in place where someone from admin or the front office or security and hall monitors can come running? Like, or do we have individual leaders in classrooms? Like, the safe space that I used to try to create in my classroom was, we protect each other, right? And
Yeah.
so that means that we don't want to see anyone in our space that we're creating as a safe space get hurt. And this not only goes into the connection and relationship between the dynamics of a teacher student, but a student or anyone, right?
Yeah,
I
because
I go ahead.
no, because looking at that, Sonia, one of the main things too, after watching the video a few times, everybody, we talking about a video of a seems to be a high school young black
Yeah.
girl in high school who was fighting her teacher. They had a horrible argument. They end up fighting. One of the things too is social media and where we at today in society. Sonia, these kids was watching
Yes.
and recording. We are,
Yes.
because look, we're in a day and time where sometimes shit need to be recorded. If something's
Absolutely.
going on, we knew nothing about it, but someone recorded it, so now we
Yeah.
found out about it. But also what that breeds in situations where people record and don't do shit. They're
Yeah.
waiting for the destruction, even though some of these was children, what it was like high school kids, but
Yeah.
still, just the fact that we're in a day and time where recording is more important than reporting what's going on. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I would have expected, I don't care. Like I said, almost 20 years, 17 and a half to be exact years that I spent in the classroom. I I trust that my students trusted me enough that if there were a disagreement and something like that happened, somebody is getting up and saying, hold on to this young lady and saying, let's think about this,
Yeah.
right? Um, and likewise, if I were in the wrong as a teacher, saying,
Mhm.
hold on, Miss Lewis, let's think about this. I think
Yeah.
that's the broken part of community, is that we don't protect each other in a loving way in community. Like,
Mm.
I am stressing with my middle school son right now because they are like fight happy. Like, when a fight happens, it's like, oh, let's run to the fight. Let's, record the fight. Let's
I
cheer
had to
on
tell my son the
who.
same thing. Yep. Yep. I had to
And
tell
it's
him you can't be recording the
ridiculous.
fight.
Right. It's ridiculous because what that says is you don't care if somebody gets hurt. And
Hmm.
at the end of the day, yes, the video is powerful and can lead to evidence as to who started it and where the extra harm may have come
Hmm.
into place. But the
Hmm.
reality of it is when you are present for a fight, you are saying to both of those people who are having a disagreement that I don't care who gets hurt.
Yeah, and you can get in trouble. Like my son was in a
Absolutely.
situation where there was a fight going on in the bathroom. Like had that type of thing has always been happening when
Yeah.
we were kids and in high
Yes.
school. People would go in the bathroom to fight. Well,
Yes.
3 or 4 kids recorded it, and everybody got in trouble. They took that
Absolutely.
video and and slowed it down and was able to see every kid in the video, every kid
Absolutely.
in that video got in trouble. So we definitely living in a different day and time. But I think parents, because yeah, administrators, we talked about the substitute thing and how certain substitutes don't need to have a certain level of credentials to actually be in
Yeah.
there with our kids. But at the end of the day, children should be respectful. And
Absolutely.
you should be pushed to a point where you end up doing something like that to somebody. But I'll be remiss not to mention I see too many. I was a very young parent, right?
Right.
And a lot of people in our community are still having children without thinking about all the ramifications, without thinking about the future of our children. This is
That part.
happening. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So this is something that we need to look at in detail because this type of video, Sonia, it happens too often. It's becoming
Yeah.
commonplace. And that should be a
So
rarity where it
yeah,
gets to that point. You know what I mean?
it's so unfortunate. And I love the way that you frame this. Like, let's talk about what parents can be doing because
Hmm.
at the end of the day, educational systems are not just here to educate students who show up in their class and they collect ADA funds for. Educational institutions are impactful to the entire family. They are impactful to the entire community. They are responsible to that family. They are responsible to that community. And so when I say that, I mean responsible educational systems. There are school districts around who are doing parent one-on-one classes, who are doing parent academies, who are equipping and encouraging certain parents to show up for these academies and get some extra tools that they can take home to help out, especially if you are a young parent, to help out if you are a formerly incarcerated parent, to help out if you are a parent who's a grandparent, really, and you're up
That's
there in
true.
age and are
Yeah.
having struggles with young people. So there is a responsibility that these schools have to parents. Likewise, I also want to put the earnest on parents too. Where are we at when it comes to showing up at school campuses? Like, I threaten my
Yeah.
kids all the time. You don't want me to show up and sit in your class all day because I'm gonna show you how smart I am. I'm gonna raise my hand to every question. I'm gonna show you what it looks like to be a good student, right?
Mhm.
And it might be embarrassing to you. And that embarrassment is going to be yours to wear because your friends going to be asking you when I leave. That's really how your ha 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 your
Yeah,
mama do you
and
like that.
that's so sometimes a lot of and look, I mentioned I have a soft spot for the parent
Yeah.
conversation and the
Yes.
fatherhood conversation because
Yes.
everything I've been through and everything I put my family through. But sometimes we got to realize as parents, we be on autopilot and we are dealing with the day-to-day struggles of the life we've created. We're
Yes.
dealing with the day-to-day struggles of the life that we may not want. We're dealing with all this shit, and we have put our kid in front of the TV. We have
Yes.
sent them to school for 8 hours and forget about them. Come home. I've even seen comedians tell jokes where say, I send my kid to you for 8 hours, you deal with them.
Right.
That's funny, but that's hella incorrect. I've
It ain't
noticed.
funny to me as an educator. That shit ain't you
You
better
like, wait a minute, shit.
baby and them better come to school with some decorum and manners. Like
See, and
and
we need to
and I,
realize that the parents that, for whatever reason, don't find it suited to push your children in a certain direction
right,
and to create boundaries and
right.
structure, if you don't create boundaries and structure, another institution, not the
Absolutely.
parent and family institution,
Right.
another institution may have to
Will.
provide boundaries and structure for your goddamn child because you didn't
Absolutely.
do it. So it's a
Yeah.
slippery slope. You know what I mean? Because I
Very.
know that this young girl, we're talking about a young girl who was fighting her teacher in a classroom. It got pretty physical. They cussed at each other the whole nine. She could have been a foster kid. She could have been a kid that lives with her grandma. She could have been a kid where in our society, we have a lot of children that was damn near thrown away. There's no able-bodied parent available to do what's necessary for them. So this could have been that baby situation, but I know a lot of y'all.
Still not an excuse. It's still not an excuse.
You know what I mean?
And I led with that because when you posted it, I posted on there. Two things can be true at the same time.
Yes.
And the reality is our babies are hurting.
Yes.
We have not for the past decade, and I would venture to say for the past 2 decades in particular, have not done our due diligence with caring about how babies show up in their hurtness in places where they don't know if they can trust that place. And school systems are that place that everybody got to go to.
Yeah.
Unless you decide for yourself that I'm dropping out of this thing and I'm not showing up anymore, and there's not a family member who's going to make you go, you fall prey to these kind of behaviors because you have not been heard. One of the things that I say about Black girls in particular that just hurts me to no end is that we go unheard. And when I hear about the stereotypical description of a Black girl being loud or ghetto, right? It's because we have not been heard. And I just, hearing this baby, kudos to the teacher. She did not lose her cool. She was I feel like, watching that video, I feel like she did a good job with trying to contain the situation. I feel like she walked away from the situation. I feel like even when she held the young lady, she was not forceful and aggressive with the young lady. She was trying to contain the situation. And so I want to give kudos where I feel that kudos are necessary. But when we're dealing with individuals who don't know how to broker their harm and their trauma that they've experienced, it's like you're sending someone to another country and they literally don't speak that language. And then they begin to talk louder because they think that talking louder is going to make them be understood. And that's just not the reality. And so I just want to see more in spaces where there is this ideation that Black girls are loud and ghetto, that just start listening just a little bit more, because they are also brilliant. They are also problem solvers. They are also leaders. And we have to nurture those things and give them permission to shine in those things before we shut them down.
Yeah. And those things start at home, because it doesn't seem like a lot of schools in the systems that create the school system isn't equipped to deal with the rationale of a young Black person, man, like young boy or young girl, how we react to things, how we respond, how we speak is often foreign to someone who's there to understand you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it creates quite a conundrum when teachers, to me, their best route is understanding the student, and then you can know how to teach them, how to communicate with them, just like you would do a child. That's yours. But if you don't understand the people, if you don't understand where the kid comes from, it makes it much difficult, or more, it makes it much more difficult. So hopefully that teacher didn't get fired. Hopefully she can still maintain her career, but we got to be cognizant of this, man. We're sending our children to these schools for 8 hours a day, sometimes 10 hours a day. Let's make sure we do our part as well, family. Now, last thing I want to discuss with my sister Sonia before we get out of here. I posted a video on Instagram of maybe a 3-year-old girl. She had to be no more than 3 years old. She was 3 years old. She put her camera on, her camera phone, or someone put the camera phone on, and she instantly went to twerking, right? Pops, her dad, a man, I'm sure it was her father. He walked by casually and just tapped her butt real quick. Not hard, not soft, but not hella hard. And he kept walking. Like it wasn't that big to him. But it was interesting to me because the comments from people who seen the video, some said that was too harsh. Like you shouldn't put your hands on your kids at all. CPS is heavily involved with our parenting structure these days. Be careful. But I've seen more people speak to the fact that this was a father that was there. And that's what I seen, Sonia. Like when I see a young girl doing that, the first thing I think when a father is able to prevent it, I'm thinking this is a in-home father. See, black men, black society, not all of us, but too many of us get too comfortable with not living with our children. We get too comfortable with procreating, but your children are in a different home. That situation, I posted it because sometimes, and what I had to learn as a father, things happen on the spot and need to be addressed right away.
Yeah.
We don't need a situation where the mama is saying, okay, I'm gonna call your daddy, or when your daddy gets home, or when you see your daddy in 2 weeks. Sometimes as a parent, some shit happens right then and there.
Absolutely.
And you have to address it, Sonia. Absolutely. So I was happy to see this black father saying, nah, I'm gonna stop you from twerking now because I don't want you twerking later. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you already know that, I'm going to come with the double-sided everything because, I love, you're absolutely correct. Like, I love seeing an engaged, responsible father in the lives of children. This is factual. Like, everybody who's listening to this, Black fathers are the most engaged, connected, and present fathers of all fathers in parenting. So let's get that misnomer like out the way. Like, Black fathers, they are there. And I say that because I hear you, and I know that your heart is like, I'm riding with my kids, right? We sometimes get caught up in these stereotypes, or what white society has said. Oh, y'all ain't there, and single Black women are doing X, Y, and Z, because they put us out there like that. But the reality of it is, Black fathers are more present than white fathers, more present than Latinx fathers, more present than Asian fathers. These are what the studies. Now, I'm not talking, from the Black community perspective. I'm talking about Harvard, Stanford, Yale have done studies on parents around this country, and Black fathers just happen to be the number one who show up for their children. Now, with that being said, we have cultural norms. My mom was watching a video the other day of some kid twerking, and I said, I remember back in the day when we was doing the butt, right? Remember the song doing the butt? And I said, that must have been our version of twerking. My mother is in her 70s. She said, we had a dance called the dog, and we used to get down on all fours. I said, Mama, Lord Jesus, you used to get on. She said, yes, if it was a basement party, we was on all fours doing the dog. And I said, Lord,
doing the dog. That's how
right? And so here's the part of that, right? Granted, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, they shouldn't be doing these dances that objectify and put us out there in a way like we grown women out there doing those kind of things. But culturally speaking, these dances just get recycled. When you go to Mother Africa, they have dances just like that they call something else, and it's normal because it's community, and they want the kids to be brought into community and music and dance and creative. Being creative with your expression is a part of who we are as a people. And so, yes, Daddy did a good job in saying, hold up, let's see what this is all about, because we know we're in a craze right now of twerking. We know, you and I and us as adults know what that means, but baby girl don't know that. And so we need to have conversations with baby girl, starting when baby girl can.
And see, and that's the thing. I understand traditionally where we come from as African people. So here's the thing, though. Here's the caveat, right?
Yeah.
We had the tradition, or we had the tradition of the activity mixed with the structure of the family, which made it okay, which made sure it was going to be respectful. When you seen them dance, what they had on, it was all respectful. See, we some lost Africans in this USA shit. So we in the wild right now. So when you introduce these dances in the wild, it can turn into some other shit, because Daddy was doing what he was supposed to do. But there's a lot of fathers, for whatever reason, are not in the home, not around. And these young girls take to Instagram, they take to the internet, and they create an identity for themselves. And it gets, because I have to say, like, we prostitution and everything about all the ills of society have been going on literally since the beginning of time, y'all. Like prostitution was the first job, you know what I mean? So, but now we see Instagram and the internet, and we like, there's different forms of it now that these young women are taking advantage of. So I would think as a Black father, that would be a trigger in today's society. Because you said yo mama was talking about doing a dance called the dog. And that sounds nasty in our mind, but back in the day, because the families were together a little more, they probably had on hella clothes doing the dog. it was the freak was pulled out of it. You know what I mean? These days, you go online and you say, "Oh my God, the world's over." I mean, how everybody? So it's the Black populace to me have in certain areas the things that are bad have gotten worse.
Yeah.
So we're dealing with so many of us being so much removed from Big Mama, so removed from the South, so removed from the tradition we have. And a lot of our traditions come from the South. And I think a lot of the young people, as I did, have kids earlier, then you have kids earlier, then you have kids earlier. You're removing the structure and the time it takes to get all this shit right. You know what I mean? So
absolutely,
I'm making jokes about it, but I appreciate that brother doing that with his daughter, Sonia, because most of the women that I know that have fathers, can't speak in absolutes, but most of them are their temperament and how they look at the world is much different than the women I've met who had no father at all.
Yeah.
What they were looking for was different. And I mean an able-bodied father who was there and worked out as much as he could. But this is the real thing. You know what I mean? So fatherhood in the Black community, sometimes it's taboo, but we need to represent the men sometime and say, no, it's a lot of us who are trying the best we can. You see what I'm saying? Dealing with all the systematic issues that we've had to deal with growing up. Sonia?
And I would say this last thing, because I love the analogy that you just shared with respects to, you know, this is a semblance of us being out in the wild. We have to remember that intentionally colonization, capitalism, and patriarchy stole our culture. Like that connection in family and tribal setting and where you were from, the pride of that lost its way when those slave ships came across the Atlantic Ocean. That shit was beat out of us. And so even though I can make correlations, and historians and sociologists can make, anthropologists, they can make connections from who we are as a people in America today in 2023 to who our ancestors were in Africa in the 1600s, even though we can make that correlation, it still was beat out of us. And the DNA that still resides in us, that gives our body the rhythm to do the things and be connected to what was, still is. And so I like to, I must repeat that again, like what was, what we thought we lost, still is. It still is inside of us. It still is a part of us. And it's something that we have to begin to celebrate. And when we think about this country and what it has done to us psychologically, emotionally, physically, right? Prevented our success, prevented the thrivability, just literally has tried to kill us. And we're going to talk about that in the next story. But, you know, the reality of it is we're dealing with that from a trauma based. We're dealing with that also and carrying the emotion of oppression on our shoulder. So it might be, we might have this spurt in this moment of celebratory joy and we feel good in the moment, but we're doing that also carrying the burden of oppression on our shoulders. And so there's this complexity that comes with being Black. Like I was hearing one of my brother friends in community the other day. I do DEI work. And part of DEI work, we've been adding in this letter B for belonging. I want to add in being, because being Black is
what is DEI, Sonia?
DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion. Sometimes you will also hear DEI and B, which is diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And lots of conversations have begun to add A to that for accessibility, because we don't want to leave anybody out. But the reality is being people are prevented from being. Like, think about that in the grand scheme of things. Are
Yep.
you free to be, Harrison? Ask yourself
Mhm.
that when you wake up tomorrow. What are the things that are preventing you from being?
Yeah.
Like, and think about those things. And that's the fight.
Yep, that's definitely the fight. And when we look at our kids and the school system and everything that we have to go through in this country, it's definitely a fight. But the main purpose of this show, everybody, and everything that I do is to attack your day-to-day lives in the corporations you're involved with, the relationships you're involved in. If you're a black man or a woman, just have a frame of reference to what has happened to you, because us being blindsided by racism or corporations, none of this should be happening at this
Yeah,
point with Google and all the information we have at our fingertips. So do yourself a service and learn about what has happened to you and infuse that into whatever you do for a living. And really, it doesn't have to be in this completely revolutionary, dashiki, hand in the fist type of way. No, just be on code with your people.
absolutely.
Just understand what it
Absolutely.
is, because it affects us in everyday life when it comes to our kids, when it comes to the relationship between us and all these different corporations. It's just good to have an understanding of pride in yourself. And that starts with your heritage, whatever that may be. You feel me? So, last story before we get out of here. Sonia, one of the, I'm going to fuck, I'm going to laugh. One of the first Karens
Yeah.
has passed away.
Yeah.
Carolyn Bryant, who died at 88 years old, today or a few days ago or whatever. This is the lady who, in her 20s, made up a lie that Emmett Till was whistling at her, talking to her, made some suggestive comments to her. All this has been debunked now. There's been so many different interviews and lawsuits. She definitely lied, right?
Right.
And this is to me, Sonia, one of the ultimate stories of white supremacy in this country.
Yeah.
Because she came out and said, hey, I lied. Her brother and husband, whoever actually killed Emmett Till, they admitted to what they did. All white jury acquitted them, right?
And
1955, this took place. Emmett
yeah.
Till was killed in 1955, visiting his family from Chicago, going down south, and shit got real. But it's sad, Sonia, because we still got Trayvon Martins. We still got
Right.
young men now who fall victim to white vigilantes or white supremacists, and
Yeah.
juries come in and say nothing happened. So when you seen an individual like her pass away, what are some of the things you think?
You know, as we live in this country and the fight against it just sickens me. Having a degree in history and psychology is almost like a double-edged sword. It's like I've been given, the opportunity to learn all of these things about history and understand how the brain functions. And then you have folks who don't invest in knowing the facts about anything, and then they can spew such hate and venom and just false narratives about people who they have no clue how they've lived and existed, and even have continued to be in this country. And so it's me when systems want to recognize now that this woman has one lied. And I'm sure there'll be lots of conversations about, oh, give her, she was 88 and she didn't need, when a couple of years ago when they were like, oh, we're going to still file these charges against her. She can sit in the cell until she dies.
Yeah.
And I was behind that movement. Like, for real, I don't care. You caused a 15-year-old to lose their life in such a brutal fashion. I don't care that you're 88 and you need to still suffer them consequences. And so we all gonna die, y'all. And so I would hope that living in a society where humanity matters, that we look at the things that we've done, because nobody's perfect. And we get to a point where we say, if we have egregiously done something to harm someone in community, that we accept that we need to be punished for it. Like, and I even mean that in the most loving sense when it comes to my brother hurt my brother, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Things that happen
Yeah.
intercommunal. But
Yeah.
specifically when we are talking about systems like white supremacy, specifically when we are talking about race and power structures, that we can no longer accept certain people getting off the hook just because they got money in the bank and they can bail themselves out. I am
Yeah.
so over this notion that we excuse old white women because they are old white women. I saw a video the other day when a woman, black guy, answered the phone at a hotel, and he called the woman on the phone, called him a nigger B, and he then, it was recorded. He then shared the recording with his manager, who wasn't on site, but the manager made the decision: don't, when she arrives at the hotel, don't rent her a room. Tell her reservations has been canceled. And she sat there in the lobby of that hotel and was like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. My sister died and I'm old, and all of these excuses. There are no longer, you can't get away with this shit no more. And that's the place that I'm in, is that we can no longer give Karens the freedom to let that white fragility, them white fake ass tears, be something that tugs on our heartstrings. I'm tired of that. I'm tired of us who give them a pass. Like, no more passes.
Because I'm gonna be honest, I seen Emmitt Till, one of his best friends, who is now an elderly man, said that because of his faith and everything he believe in, he forgives her and he wished the family the best. Look, I'm not gonna wish death on nobody, but the ball that got rolling, like, of course, Emmitt Till dying helped spark the civil rights movement and brought a clear focus. What his mom had the courage to do did bring a clear focus to things and help move us forward a little bit. But at the end of the day, people like Carolyn Bryant need to be punished. When they're not punished, here we are in 2023, and we got black folks and all of us online making jokes about Karens. That's actually not no funny shit. The Karen, and here's a double-edged sword about black folks. We take our disenfranchisement, we take our struggle, and we ball that shit up and make it look beautiful for everybody else. But there's a problem with that at times, because us doing that, now we got Karens who police come, you get arrested, you get a little quick conversation. Well, back in the day, y'all, this is one of the primary ways we died. Was a white woman said he whistled. All she had to say was he whistled. He tried to talk to me. We couldn't look white folks eye to eye. Like, our normal relationship with white people can get us killed. Like, the normal communal things you do with white people can get us killed, especially black men. You see what I'm saying? So we make jokes about that shit. But Carolyn Bryant at 88, and again, I don't wish death on nobody, but how dare this country allow this woman? Because look, if you fought in like the Holocaust, if you're one of the individuals who was involved in the Holocaust, they'll find you. Like if you were involved in putting anybody in the oven or doing anything nefarious, you're 90-something. One of the army men that was involved in the Holocaust, that was involved in putting those Asian people in the position they were in, he was like 90, and they caught his ass and they fried his ass. You see what I'm saying? So what they're actually telling us is Black lives don't matter, Sonia. How about that?
Right. And so that's the thing, right? Because we can pick and choose when we want to hand out punishment to folks.
There we go.
And so all I'm saying is that we as Black folks have to be just as hard-nosed in letting these passes not be a thing, because I'm not interested in placating anyone, giving anybody like, that was cute. No, I just did my last client that I just led a 3-day retreat for a nonprofit in the Bay Area. An employee comes up to me and she says, are you going to talk about white fragility and white peers? Because even though we are a very diverse organization, as a Black woman, still these white women be up in here doubting that we can do our jobs. These white women be up in here questioning whether we gonna do it the way they would do it. These white women be up here when we say no to something because our position gives us permission to tell them no to something, then they get in their feelings and they make it personal. And I was like, yes, baby, yes, we're gonna talk about all these things. And the reality of it is we carry the brunt of that. We still are responsible for carrying the brunt of, yes, I've been given a position. Yes, I know how to show up and act right in these certain environments. We are the masters of code switching. But then the system
Yep, you froze, Sonia.
and
I can't hear you, so you frozen. My sister is frozen up right now. I think it could be your phone because of where she at. But this is real talk, family. This is real talk, and my computer is getting kind of hot too. But this is real talk, family. Like we gotta have these conversations. Yeah, no, I know, I hear you now, sis. Can you hear me?
okay.
Okay. Yep. No, and that's
Yep, I
that's
can
real
hear
talk.
you.
Because, that's real talk because, like, that's why I'm so like I enjoy what you do for a living so much because it's amazing that it's now we have all these companies who are looking to go into a corporation and make sure racially everything is done correctly. Like the company
Right.
that you have, the fact that that's becoming a popular thing now, I'm like, damn, that should have been something that was at the
Right.
forefront of our communication as people, because we all know when we go in these corporations, people want to keep their job and people just want to smile and get home to their family. That creates a lot of
Yes.
discernment. Man, we have so many people who hate their jobs and who got high blood pressure and all these actual physical ailments because they have to go and
Yes.
code switch for 8 hours. They have to go and be in an uncomfortable environment for 8 hours. You know what I mean, Sonia?
Yeah. And that's the unfortunate part about it is that that's the bag we carry and the mask that we
Yeah.
wear. Like
Yeah.
we don't have the luxury, unfortunately, to go into spaces and be safe. And at the end of the day, safety for me and safety for us as a community, I stress this for us to really think about what does your world look like when it's safe. Safe means I have food to eat. Safe means I have a roof over my head. Safe means that I can earn a living and show up in places unapologetically. Safe means that no one will, if I'm wearing a wig, if I'm wearing braids, if I'm wearing my hair in a natural, nobody is going to treat me like a pet and be like, oh, can I touch that? Or, oh, you grew your hair overnight. Safe means that I don't have to my sister always says, if my mouth didn't say it, my face did, right? Because sometimes we can't hold in those emotions.
Yeah.
But safe means that there's not a threat that's coming my way for me speaking my mind. Safe means that a Sandra Bland can tell an officer, fuck you, give me my ticket, let me go on about my way, right? And I get home and you still gave me my ticket. That's safety.
Yeah.
Safety means that my body is mine and I decide how many babies I get to have. Safety, I mean, I can go on and on about what safe is. And these work environments, unfortunately, community environments where it's not a bunch of us, don't have those safety nets and safety guards that protect us.
Definitely. That's a great point, my sister Sonia. And thank you, everybody, man, for tuning into another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. We're gonna have these conversations, man. All of our personal relationships, like when we go outside of the house, as Black folks, it can get real.
Yes.
Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it can, right? So we need to be equipped with the right perspective. We need to be equipped with the right amount of like unity and love, because we talk about brothers like Don Lemon and Black men that I have disagreed with their words. So what? Until I haven't met you, so I got to get to the bottom of what it is I don't like about you as a Black man, because we got too much like non-unity as it is just amongst us, Black men. So as a group. So it's important that we have these detailed conversations, man. Hit the like button, subscribe to the Melanated Convo podcast if you haven't done so already. Listen to the show on one of the digital platforms, Spotify, Overcast, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, all these different places.
Yeah.
My sister Sonia Williams Lewis. Sonia, real quickly, tell them where they can find you. Where's your Instagram page?
Instagram page is Ascribe Success at ASCRIBE Success.
All right, reach out to my sister. She can get your company right. Everything we talking about, she'll go in your company and she'll go to your board meeting and say the same thing. You know what I mean? We ain't them kind of black folks. We gonna say the same shit in front of your all white office space. Let's do it, because conversation breeds understanding. Understanding breeds changes.
Yes.
You know how this works, family. You feel me? So this is your brother Harrison, Melanated Convo podcast. Man, I'm happy to be back on Thursday like we supposed to be. You know what I mean? Me and my sister Sonia Williams Lewis. I'm out.